So welcome to the February 2024 Seattle King County Coalition on Homelessness monthly meeting. And I really hope you are enjoying the music as much as I did. Almost every month I'm dancing and honestly, I would subject you all to my terrible singing if it didn't interrupt the actual music. So thanks for being here. We have a lot you can see on our agenda here today, some of the stuff we're going to be covering. We do record this, we do a nice blog, and we throw it up on YouTube pretty quick for folks. So you will get everything usually within about a week or so. Tim does an amazing job with our blog summary. We love to see faces and cameras on if that is something that is feeling accessible to you today. We love to see names, pronouns, how you're affiliated with the coalition or an agency that you're working with. We do have closed captioning if you need that. You should be able to toggle down at the bottom and enable that if you need it. We are trying to do a nice little reminder every meeting, and I'm not super consistent with this, but we do like to remind any members of the media that this is a public meeting. We ask that, any of our presenters or coalition staff, that's an official part of the agenda, but if there's anybody else that shares anything or says anything, we ask that you follow up with them or their supervisor before quoting them or including them in your work. And any candidates that may be here that have a passion for housing justice, we just want to remind folks that we are a nonprofit, which means we are nonpartisan. And so we cannot have anybody talking or endorsing or sharing anything about their candidacy that jeopardizes our nonprofit status, which we hold very dear and serious. So we are going to have Lori from the Department of Licensing here to really break down how folks that face any number of barriers to getting an ID can access ID. We're super lucky to have her with us today. We are going to talk a lot about the state legislative session and, what didn't make it this year, and we might be moving forward, looking into next year and what's still alive and well, and we need to keep fighting for. We have a ton of information and just updates and information to share about things that the coalition's working on and what we're involved with. And then we have a really good chunk of time here at the end, and we have a few folks that are keyed up to share some really good community announcements and resources for you all. And then we are it's not on the agenda here, but we are gonna have a very, couple minutes to say a thank you and a goodbye to a dear colleague and trusted ally. So we will get to that and get going. If you do not want to be included in the recording, just don't come off mute. Throw things into the chat. We're very good about paying attention to the chat and capturing that. And I think we are going to introduce our newest staff member, Kristen McFadden. She is an MSW student who's joining us for the next several months. We're incredibly lucky to have her. Kristen, do you want to just introduce yourself briefly?
Thanks, Jody. Good morning, everyone. I'm super excited to be here today. As Jody said, I'm an MSW intern, and my day job, I am a social service specialist at Sound Generations. I work in the caregiver support program, so I help folks connect with in-home healthcare, some Medicaid programs, and also, just helping them take care of themselves by, doing counseling and whatever it takes, because we understand that caregivers are at risk, and so I love doing that work. And yeah, happy to be here. Can't wait to experience my first general membership meeting. Thanks for welcoming me, Jody. Appreciate it.
Glad you're here. And then if we could move on, and maybe if there's someone that is willing to read our mission, vision, and values, we really like to do this as a collective and have somebody participate and read this. So if there's a volunteer, we would love to have you read those.
Well, I'm happy to, Jody, since my first meeting. So the coalition's mission is we mobilize our community to challenge systemic causes of homelessness and advocate for housing justice. And the vision is a region that acts on a shared sense of responsibility to ensure that everyone has a home. And our values are equity, justice, and collective action.
Thank you, Kristen. You're official now. We are right on time, and for those of you that have been here with us for a lot, I love that. So keep introducing yourselves in the chat to each other, sharing contact information, questions, but I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Tim, to introduce our first speaker.
Awesome. Thanks, Jody. So, as a lot of people in this room already know, a state ID can be really important to allowing people to access resources, verify identity, and just get a lot of important stuff done. And as you also probably know, it can be pretty challenging to access an ID, especially if you are unhoused and unsheltered and were not born in the state of Washington, because it can be harder to verify identity. Thankfully, I've had the great blessing of meeting a wonderful community partner named Lori Carnino, who is really open to sharing about how we can make it a little bit easier to share information amongst providers and share with our colleagues and community members experiencing homelessness so that they can get their IDs and get what they need to get. So without further ado, I'd love to hand it over to our excellent community partner and guest, our valued guest, Lori. Take it away, Lori.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you for having me here today. So yeah, you and I have talked a bit, and we've been at different events, and it was nice seeing you on Tuesday too. But yeah, it ID and a license too, for those that are eligible for that, it does mean all of the difference. And, if it is a perfect world, we all have what we need. We go in, we get it, we come out, and it's great, but it doesn't always go that way. So for those that do struggle to meet the identity requirements, here's what you want to do. When you go to the office, first be prepared. Bring everything that the customer has. Documents that have their name and address, name and photo, name and date of birth, name and signature. Preferably, we would need like a certified birth certificate. We do need a document that will establish name and date of birth. But then we can consider other documents. If there was previously a document out of state, and they have that information, we could do some research on that. Or if it is still valid, they could reach out to that state asking for a verification letter or an ADR that does say the ID is valid and it provides all of their information. But just gather up every document that they have, really everything to bring in to be considered for a supervisor ID review. Because what's going to happen, excuse me, they'll come in, you're not meeting the requirements, we're going to hand you this identity requirement brochure. And then, the person gets frustrated. So that's where, in these instances, when the ID requirements aren't being met, take a look at that brochure though. And there are some links and stuff that I've provided to Tim that have, and to our website, dol.wa.gov. And you can go on to search the identification requirements. It'll bring you up to the link too that has all of the languages that the ID requirements are available in. But again, when the customer isn't meeting them by the standard way, gather everything they have. That could be, letters from DSHS. Maybe there's been some medical bills or some, things like that. Any type of correspondence, bring that all together. And again, be prepared and ask for that supervisor ID when you're up there at the counter.
Hey, Lori, I'm so sorry to interrupt. I know that you have some great slides that you shared with me. Do you want me to share my screen to show those?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Hold on just 1 second. Let me pull those up and then we can sync. One moment. because I know that this super valuable information is also super valuable written and spoken. So we just want to make sure that everything that you're saying is well interpreted by everybody here. Let me see.
Tim, do you want me to share my screen? Because I know you're taking good notes. I can do it if you want.
You could, that would be especially helpful. Can
Yeah.
you do that?
Yeah,
Thank you so
no
much.
problem.
And anyone here, feel free to reach out, email me. I work Monday through Thursday, and any questions that you have about DOL, ID, license, anything like that. Yeah, fees. Go ahead and send me an email and see what we can do. So yeah, here's talking about the supervisor ID review. And again, though, when you are asking for that, do be ready and have everything gathered together when you get there. Yeah. And then the supervisor is going to review what is brought. Now, sometimes may need to have another visit with additional things even after the supervisor ID review. But at least it gets it started, and the information of what was brought was recorded with maybe some ideas of some other possibilities. And then, too, like I was saying, if there is an ID, previous ID issues, even in our records, our photos go back to 2001. So if you've been issued an ID in Washington, we will have your photo on file back to 2001. And then we have what we call a black and white of the a lot of you here may not remember the Polaroid system, but when we did have that camera system, we, have the black and white photos. Those go back to about 1993 that we may be able to pull an old photo in our own records too. But yeah, if there is something from another state, we may be able to find some information there as well. So they do have that kind of information. Let us know, even if it's lost. Yeah. So yeah, just be prepared for that ID review and ask the supervisor, bring everything. We work with DSHS and stuff too. So depending on, like if you're maybe working with refugees, there is the ORIA program through DSHS. Now I can't really speak to how it works, just the spreadsheet that they provide us with the list of customers that they're working with. And then they go into one of our offices for ID because they've been identified that way. We work with DCYF also through DSHS to help identify minor children with identity packets, which also qualifies them for the reduced fee ID. DOC, we have programs with them too to get ID issued prior to release, and there may even possibly coming down the pike licenses in that program, and that would be wonderful too. So let's see. The one-time free ID card that unhoused customers can request, that will be for any ID card transaction. It can be a replacement, original, first-time Washington State ID, or a renewal of an ID. But customers that qualify for that, when they're up at the counter doing their transaction, they'll just attest to being homeless, and they will then get their one-time free ID card. Now, if a customer does qualify for DSHS benefits, then they can request the reduced fee identicard voucher through DSHS. That's going to make the cost of an ID card $5. And then there are also agencies in the Seattle area and throughout the state that have what we call an A19 contract with DOL, and we have an A19 invoice voucher that those agencies will issue to pay for DOL services. And then they'll be billed for the vouchers that are redeemed. So, and that's about on a monthly basis from our revenue accounting department. Now, customers that are qualifying for the DSHS reduced fee identicard voucher, and if they take an A19 voucher for $5 to pay for that from one of the agencies that participate, they will need to be sure to have both of those vouchers when they go to an office to get their ID card. And there is a list of some of the local agencies that do help provide that assistance for licenses and IDs. If your agency is interested in signing up for our A19 program, let me know. I'll get you connected with the contracts people that can help you with that. And I would also like to say that our DOL to go unit is something new. And guess where they're going to be on February 29th, that extra day that we get this year down at Compass Center, issuing IDs and licenses. And there will be A19 vouchers at that event from 10 to 2 down at the Compass Day Center on Alaskan Way there. So, yeah. February 29th, DOL to go is going to be there, and Vanessa and I will be there also. So, and we do attend their quarterly events, another place where Tim and I have met and seen each other over the years. So, yeah. Yeah, the DOL to go though, that is new. We started going out in the community last year, and now they've got a regular calendar and on our website. And if your agency is interested in DOL to go, coming and participating in an event, go to the web link on their calendar, and it's DOL to the number 2 go at dol.wa.gov. And you can make a request for them to attend your event, and issuances are done, ID licenses. Now, what is helpful too at some of those events, if there is an agency that is willing to pay for the funding, if they have an A19 contract, or if they're an agency that has secured funding to help with DOL services and is maybe going to use by a credit or debit card, like a grand total or each transaction. So, if there's an agency interested in supporting funding for a DOL to go to event too, I'm just going to put that out there while we're talking about them. But yeah, it's new. They've been coming out. They've been really busy going to a lot of good community outreach events into smaller communities and communities too that don't have offices close to them as maybe they did at one time. So yeah, it's a really good thing, and they will come to your event. If you want to make that request, and check out their calendar to see where they are currently at. It's like I said, I know they have a lot of events coming up, and again, we'll be at Compass Center. They're on Alaskan Way on February 29th. And I had mentioned, there's going to be some links here to all the different identity requirement brochures and the available languages. So you can go in and, review those and print some and stuff too to help your customers with. Also, a thought came to me on paying online, and you may be assisting a customer with a credit or debit card. There is an option to use like a checking account where you put in the routing number and the bank account, so you would avoid the credit and debit fees that are charged. So that's something to keep in mind too if you do help customers online in that way. And then, yeah, let's take a minute and talk about the youth that are 25 and under that also qualify for a reduced fee ID. Excuse me. Unhoused youth 25 and under just need to attest when at the counter getting their ID card, I'm unhoused. They don't need the voucher from DSHS. They don't need any type of voucher. Just that attestation will reduce the fee to $5. The same for those youth 25 and under recently released within the last 30 days from juvenile incarceration. Same thing, just the attestation. Don't need the additional voucher, but they certainly could reach out to an agency for an A19 voucher to pay that $5 fee to help them get that ID and get on their feet. So that voucher is okay, but for payment, but nothing is needed to reduce the fee for those groups. Here is a list of some of the Seattle area agencies that do have an A19 contract to help for payment with DOL services. So, like I do like to tell people, those do check with them, maybe give them a call before you go there, just to make sure they are able to assist with the service that you need. As I found out last year when we attended the DFI conference in Everett, there were some outreach agencies there that had an A19 contract and said, yeah, unfortunately, when people do come to us for that help, we no longer have the funds to help them. And then, that's something that kind of hit home with me, thinking, yeah, I'm not exactly sure where that particular agency is sitting now, too. And as much as they would love to help, it's best to call and make sure first. So, but yeah, these are some in the Seattle area that can help customers with an A19 payment for licensing and ID services, including the $5 reduced fee ID. And here's, that website again for DOL to go. And yeah, the calendar of events. It is, yeah, it's really neat. I remember years ago, before I worked at DOL, and on April 6th, I will have been here 25 years. There was a booth at the Puyallup Fair, and I utilized it as a customer while I was there. I'm like, there's no line. This is awesome. And then my scone is right down there. So it's really neat that we now have this mobile unit. You'll see a van with DOL to go on it in the community. So yeah, if you're interested in them, there's that information. Check out the calendar and go to the website to request them to come if you'd like. There's that list of the identity requirements and the languages that they're now offered in, and we've recently added some more. And yeah, they can be found at our website, and there's some links there. And you can share those with customers if you have them in those languages. So yeah, thank you again very much for having me today. And if anyone has any questions, my email there, go ahead and email me. I am again in the office Monday through Thursday. And if you're interested in A19s, let me know that too. Thank you so much. And yes, drive safe, no matter what you're driving.
Thank you so much, Lori. That's really great
Thank
to
you.
know. Yeah, it's really great to know that these resources exist. And I appreciate that you kind of walk us through some of the technical processes to hit that ID, cost reduction, to ask for a supervisor review, to if a person is lacking identity verification due to, just not having that easily accessible. Does anybody have any questions for Lori? Jonah, I see your hand is raised.
Hi. Yeah, I had two questions. Just to clarify, for the free ID, you need both the DSHS voucher and then you need to attest to your homelessness at the DOL office. Is that correct?
That's kind of two different situations. So
Okay.
if the customer is homeless, they do qualify for a one-time free ID. So if they did want to take that opportunity when getting their ID card, then they would attest to being homeless and there would be no charge. Now, for customers that qualify for a reduced fee ID card, which the reduced fee identicard voucher, because they receive DSHS benefits, then they would get that reduced fee identicard voucher from DSHS. That then makes the fee of the ID card $5. And then they can reach out to one of the agencies for assistance with an A19 that participate to pay for the $5. So essentially that would cover that if they find an agency to give them the A19 for the $5, or if not, then the ID card with the DSHS reduced fee identicard voucher would at least be $5 rather than the typical fees.
Yeah. And then the one-time free ID, I've gone into the DOL and the workers there didn't really know what I was talking about. Is there like a phrase I need to use or anything? Should I just ask for a supervisor?
I would ask for the one-time free ID card for the customer due to being homeless.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
maybe the one-time free ID card that might, and it's been around a little longer now too. So people, should be becoming more familiar with that
Okay.
request.
And they just need to attest in person
Yes.
at the DOL.
Yes,
Okay.
and then it'll be noted in the record though that they were issued that one time, and then from there on out there will be the fee assessed. So that is where the DSHS reduced fee identicard voucher would be helpful for those that qualify, because then the ID card is $5.
And is that for a license as well, or just ID?
No,
Just for
no,
ID.
just ID. Yes.
Okay. Okay. And then in the past, it's been very hard to request from, especially for folks out of state, birth certificates, anything like that. A lot of times we use either like a Reach ID or a DESC ID or a Clarity HMIS ID. I know you sent over the list, and I know in the past it's kind of been touch and go with the ID to go. But would those be accepted forms of ID if this was the first time?
Everything can be considered in an ID review.
Okay.
So yeah, that's, why I say bring everything really, just bring everything, and it can be considered. And then we'll take it from there as to if the supervisor feels there has been enough to identify them, or there may be some more needed, and then they'll let them know that, and do their best to try to suggest things.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Angelique, and I have a question regarding what do you do in the cases where you have the homeless, where everything they had has been stolen, and so they have no IDs, they have no pictures, they have nothing to prove themselves. Are they still available? Are things still available to get the one-time ID if you have nothing to prove even including birth certificates, everything has been stolen?
And we do hear that, we do hear that. Excuse me. So that's where then a little extra legwork needs to be done by possibly working with DSHS to see if they're able to help with a birth certificate. I don't want to speak for DSHS, but when I've been at different events and the mobile van has been there, they have provided birth certificate information. So that is something to consider. And I know, again, it's hard if there's been something from another state. And again, any correspondence that they may have, because maybe they are working with a local agency, DSHS, different things. But if there is something from another state, we may be able to get something, or at least, we can reach out and see. Some states belong to our record system in our daily system that we use, and we can kind of access it through there. Some are willing to provide information, some aren't. So it just depends. But we can see if there's anything available from the state if they had a previous ID or license from there. But again, just bring everything, and maybe they've already been in our system, which sometimes people forget about that, and we find them, and that works out great too. Just let us see what they have, and let's just give it a start and let them know then what direction to go next.
Thank you. And if I may, just one quick question. On a different client, they went to a different town and everything was stolen. And so what would turnaround time be for getting your IDs and things back to regain your IDs or driver's licenses if they've been stolen? Turnaround time once they apply again.
If we have them in the system already and we're just replacing it, and we're issuing a duplicate, or maybe it's a renewal because it could be that time, to receive the hard copy, it's about 7 to 10 business days.
Okay, but they can get maybe a printout or something to carry in the meantime?
Yeah, there is a temporary, there's no photo, but there is a temporary that was issued at the time, yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, yeah.
We thank you so much for all the questions so far. We have a couple more hands raised, so we do want to get to those. We have to move on in a couple minutes, but if we can, we will answer those questions posted in the chat. And if we are not able to, keep an eye out for our recap blog, which we will have answered in that blog. Let's take a quick question from Harold.
I'm sorry, did I hear my name?
Yes, you have your hand raised. Do you have a question for Lori?
Thank you. So two things. Follow up on the last question. Is there an intention for DOL to take into account many homeless people or people who are unhoused are being swept in the Seattle area and throughout the state, and they lose their stuff. They lose their IDs, they lose everything. I just hope that's taken into consideration when we do manager reviews or supervisor reviews. And are these real IDs or real, considered real IDs for people to use as travel in the next year or so, or next year requirements?
We do take each individual's situation into consideration and review each individual situation and their story. So that would include people in Seattle that have been in the different encampments that have been cleared away. I mean, again, each individual situation is considered along with the story. And the enhanced ID or license, that is something different. So this is just a regular ID card that the DSHS reduced fee IdentiCard voucher will reduce the fee to $5 for. The same thing with the free ID for those that are homeless and they want to take that one-time free ID card. Those are regular ID cards, not an enhanced. That's separate with an additional fee, and it's an additional $7 per year for an enhanced ID or license. And that is the travel document, and May of 2025 is when that is going to take effect.
Okay, so you're saying with the extra fee, that voucher can be used to get an enhanced ID?
If a person had a reduced fee IdentiCard voucher from DSHS for $5, then yes, they could pay the additional $7 per year to get an enhanced card. But that is a separate fee, and it could be paid separately, yes.
Thank you very much. I did not know that, and that's good to hear. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Right, I think we have time for one question more, and then maybe I will state the questions that we have in the chat and see if we can get some quick answers. Michelle, why don't you ask your question? Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you. I just have a really quick question. I've been working with somebody in her, she's been in Washington for 25 years, but she has never had an ID here. So she has an expired ID from another state, but it's expired by, I don't know, 14 years. And she's part of a tribe. And so I was able to get a tribal ID card, but it doesn't, it has her name and her birthday and her picture, but it doesn't have her signature on it. And so I'm just, and she didn't go to high school, so I could possibly get like a middle school, a yearbook picture maybe, but it would have been from like the 60s. I don't know if that's I don't know. So I guess I'm trying to figure out, she's never lived anywhere, so she has nothing with her address on it or name on it. Like, there's just not a stitch of documents anywhere, but I'm wondering if those two together might equal something worth having an appointment for.
Yes, it's a very good place to start, because even though it's expired for a long time, that can be considered in the ID review. Tribal ID is a document that we accept. And you've been working with her, so maybe any correspondence that you might have, or again, like any medical, DSHS, anything, just bring everything to
So
be
she's,
reviewed.
and she said she's had SSI before, but someone has stolen her identity. So I should be able to get something from.
Yeah, their correspondence. Yes. Yeah. Any type of correspondence, any agency that, they're working with.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything really, please bring it for consideration.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks everybody for the great questions. We do have to move on to our next section, but I want, Lori, if you have any time to stay on, there are a couple of questions in the chat that we'd love if you could try to answer. There's a great question about folks who are impacted by potentially physical or other disabilities, and a question about which DSHS beneficiaries can access. Either if you can see those, either message to me or answer in the chat. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me. And I'll check out the chat now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to pass it back. I
think to me. Thank you, Lori, and thank you, Tim. Thanks everyone for your excellent questions. This is one of the things that I sometimes use as an example to people who are not familiar with how challenging it is to experience homelessness, is how hard it is to get ID when you don't have ID. So really appreciate the information, as well as the workarounds and the enormous effort that you all put into helping folks secure this really important tool for modern existence. We are going to take a few minutes here for a special guest. I want to welcome Leo Floor, who is the outgoing director of the King County Department of Community and Human Services. Some of you may know Leo because Leo is not actually the sort of high-level bureaucrat who you never see or hear from. One of the reasons that we kind of twisted Leo's arm to come for a few minutes to the meeting this morning is we have interacted extensively with Leo in his role. And I want to say we don't often invite high-level officials to come to the coalition meeting for a special recognition and goodbye. And what I said to Leo is, when we do, we mean it. I'm really grateful to you, Leo, for coming this morning, because it is truly a value of this coalition as an organization that we want to express our appreciation and gratitude to people when they not only do their jobs, which I know you're going to say is all you were doing, but when they do their jobs with true humanity, humility, extraordinary dedication, creativity, and with the people at the heart of what is driving your actions. Leo and I had a chance to meet years ago. I tried to look it up in our database, but I couldn't do it because we were jamming to the 1979 era banging hits at the beginning of our meeting, Leo, because that's how old the coalition is, and we're revisiting the music of the era. And I would say it's probably around 2008, 2009, when the coalition was still coordinating the one-night count of people experiencing homelessness, and we added a special veterans interview project. And at the time, Leo, yourself a veteran, was one of our wonderful volunteers going and interviewing people in the community so that we could gather good data. It's been really an honor and a pleasure to work with you, Leo. Never have I felt that you failed to understand the urgency that we are coping with every day and every night, and the experience that we lived through together during the pandemic only heightened that. I could go on. I won't. I want to give you a few minutes to say whatever you would like to, and accept the really great good wishes of everyone in the coalition, including those who are here today, as you move on to your next gig.
Thank you, Allison. I certainly appreciate the recognition, but I feel a little silly, I have to say, in this room with all of you getting any sort of credit. So you all do the work. I think you have done it beautifully. You do it under very difficult conditions. I don't think many people appreciate the difficulty of what you do, but please know that you got folks who see the importance of it. You help real people every day, and I know that it involves sometimes as much heartbreak as it does success. But if I can say anything before I leave my job, it's thank you to all of you. You are the ones who are making a difference, and the work that you do matters. It matters a ton, and it probably matters more than the emails that I send off all over the place when you get somebody a license, or when you get somebody inside, or when you just get somebody to know that somebody cares about them. So I'm really grateful to all of you. I know some of you, I don't know all of you, but I'm cheering all of you on. And so as I, step away from the government, I hope that we continue to do a better job supporting you. And I'm encouraged at King County at how we're thinking about that. And a lot of that involves you need to be paid more than you do. And the government needs to pay for the actual cost of doing services well. So know that people are paying attention to that, even if it's not moving as fast as it needs to. But I just want to say thank you. Thanks, Allison. You have in Allison, I think, a fierce coalition director who, when I mess something up, she lets me know, but always in the spirit of like, hey, how are we going to fix this? What are we going to do? So if I can reflect some appreciation back to you, Allison, I think you do a tremendous job. And yeah, thanks for being awesome.
Thank you so much, Leo. And you have some comments in the chat here. I appreciate your kind words. It is it's a mark of the last few years, perhaps, that we are experienced, unfortunately, in handling multiple crises and emergencies stacked on top of and exacerbating each other. And that makes for, I think, a lot of intensity and difficulty, but also clarity of what we are supposed to be doing, each of us. And we do all have our roles to play. I think it's really important just to note, among the things that we know that you have done, Leo, excellent communication in times of crisis, when we've seen government agencies at their best and at their worst. And through your leadership through the pandemic, I really think that King County was at the very top of responses. Not perfect, we all know that, but extraordinary. And you have also moved forward true regionalism through the Health Through Housing program. We now have permanent supportive housing either in place or coming into being in multiple locations throughout King County. And we know that you are part of that. And the focused attention, the persistent internal attention to match our external advocacy pressure on the workforce and on the need for government to adequately compensate the agencies and the people doing the work. We know that you've been an extraordinarily strong leader and partner. So those are just some of the ways, if you all don't know Leo and you haven't had the chance to interact with him, you should know that's part of the legacy that Leo has helped to contribute to. And Jody, yes, I thought you might want to say a couple words. Yeah.
I cannot let this opportunity pass by, Leo. I don't quite have words because Allison has said it and so beautifully, but your leadership, your compassion, your humanity and heart has been extraordinary. And I will forever be grateful and hold you close to my heart. For those folks that don't know, I met Leo at the height of the pandemic. I was embedded into the Department of Community and Human Services that he ran. I think possibly the first time I met him, I was swearing very loudly on the floor in my angst and chaos and fear. And he was such a calming, steady, thoughtful, smart leader that allowed me to relax into the work and do really good work with other folks. So you're amazing. You're wonderful. You leave a wonderful, beautiful trail, and good luck and well wishes into your new adventure.
And for those, oh, please go ahead, Leo.
I'll just say, you all know this, but Jody's a complete ass kicker. So when, to get into the memories all coming back, you all were in shelters with bandanas around your faces, helping people. Jody was one of those folks who jumped right in, started to get the PPE out, getting the guidance out, visiting sites. And so again, it's an occasion to thank everybody. Jody was a complete ass kicker, and that Allison was too. And I don't know all of you personally, but I have total confidence that each one of you was out there, sometimes at risk to yourselves when people forget we didn't know what this thing was for a while. And you all are the ones who showed up, and it matters.
Thank you so much, Leo. We send you off with, great, sincere appreciation and good wishes. And I know that you've told me that your new workplace is near our office, so I will be seeing you soon. I think it's also really important to let folks know that we have a wonderful person who is taking Leo's very important role, and that is Kelly Ryder, also a longtime partner and advocate. Before she went into government, Kelly worked at the Housing Development Consortium. She also was a staff person to a state lawmaker. She's been a longtime partner, an extremely thoughtful, strategic, and effective partner in work on homelessness, affordable housing, behavioral health care. And we're really delighted to know that while we are sad to lose Leo's experience and skill set, we have a wonderful new person in this role, Kelly Ryder. So you'll all get a chance to meet her if you haven't already. And I know we need to move on because the legislative session calls to us to take action, to continue to do the work. And thank you for joining us, Leo. Really grateful that you were able to come to this morning. So thank you so much. I think Hallie and our folks from the Mockingbird Society are going to bring us into state legislative advocacy. We've got some action that we're going to invite you to take with us this morning. Some really incredibly exciting good news about bills that we care about. And I will hand things over to Hallie.
Thanks, Allison. And just by way of introduction, before we dive into bills and what's going on in the legislature and all that, we have been doing a lot of work, both on our staff at the coalition, and also you all at your organizations have been joining us in a ton of advocacy. A couple weeks ago, we brought about 35 folks with us from our member organizations and partners, as well as some folks that we've met who are experiencing homelessness in Burien. And we all went on a bus together down to Olympia for a really excellent housing and homelessness advocacy day. It was the first in-person one for many, many years. and it was just a fabulous experience. And so I'd love to share some photos from that really quick. That our lovely Kristen has put together this very cute slideshow for us. We left in the wee hours of the morning. We all loaded up into a bus and made our way to Olympia. We rallied on the Capitol steps. We made signs. We heard some fabulous and exciting speeches from our lawmakers. We heard from the drummers at the Chief Seattle Club and more. And we got to meet with our lawmakers and got to, have some really powerful and important face-to-face time with our lawmakers to tell them about, our experiences as people, and also to be able to speak up for our members and our community for really important bills that we're watching in the legislature this year. And it was just a really great opportunity for me. This was the first time I had been to Housing and Homelessness Advocacy Day. And it was just really exciting to see the power of so many people coming together to advocate together in Olympia. So I just wanted to sort of center us on that. We've also had some action alerts that have gone out. For our last action alert, we had about 175 people write messages to their representatives in the state legislature, and that represented about 22 legislative districts. So that really matters, and that has been, your voice there has been a big reason why a lot of our priority bills are still alive. And so I'm going to talk about some of those, but first I want to invite Karin Pierre-Louis from the Mockingbird Society to talk about a bill that they have been working on. This is related to the DOL conversation that Lori led us through earlier. So there's a bill going through the legislature that would make it easier for young people to get ID. And so we'd love it, Karin, if you could introduce yourself and speak a little bit to that and where it's at in the process.
Yeah. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Karen Pierre-Louis, and I'm with the Mockingbird Society. And this was one of our supporting lead agendas that we were hoping to support because our young people back in the fall voted on this. And the reason why they voted on this is that it is to address barriers to licensing. It has several elements that I'll go over, including helping minors access driver licenses and improving access to ID cards. Currently, only the parent, guardian, or employer of this minor can sign their driver license application. This can prevent youth living with other family members in foster care or in other circumstances from getting a driver's license. This bill is allowing a responsible adult, as defined in the DOL rulemaking, to sign a minor's driver's license application, which would include individuals like grandparents and foster parents. Some other states, such as Florida, Utah, South Carolina, and Montana, have already adopted this approach. Another issue that this bill addresses is the documentation required to get an at-cost ID card, which is available to people on certain public benefits. So currently, customers must obtain a physical letter from DSHS, and bring it to a DOL office to qualify. So this is going to allow more flexibility in how the DOL verifies eligibility for the at-cost ID card, including electronic verification. It also clarifies that WIC participants qualify for the program. Finally, it is going to address the bill directs the agency to study feasibility of offering a reduced fee ID card. So again, these are great changes that our state will gain in order to have driving and identification, which are fundamental for our society. And then currently I have some good news because it passed the Senate and now it's in House in committee. There's some clarification on what it means to be a responsible adult, but I do have an action item. Please go to, I'm gonna send the link for the House bill portion of it, and you can contact your representatives on why this is such a important bill for our young people or those who are wanting more access. As you know, IDs are important. So I'm gonna put the link right here and you can see where it's at. It's in committee in the House. And to know what they are, so HB 1953 is for the House, SB 5800 is for the Senate, and I can put more info in the chat, but that is all I have. I can try to answer some questions, but if I don't know most of it, I will take down your email and get back to you because I'm still learning as we go as well. But thank you.
Karen, thank you so much for joining us. And if folks have questions for Karen about that important bill, I'll invite you to jump in the chat. And for any folks who work with youth, the Mockingbird Society does fabulous advocacy on behalf of youth experiencing homelessness. I definitely encourage you to sign up for their mailing list and their action alerts. They do really, really good work. Karen, thank you so much for joining us. So in addition to that Senate Bill 5800 that Karen was just talking about, we've had a number of bills move forward. There was an important cutoff on Tuesday night that bills had to be moved one step forward in the legislative process. So I'll name a couple of bills and I'll also ask Kristen to drop in the chat the link to our blog where we've got the whole lowdown of what bills are still alive, what bills have died, and where you can learn more about them and links out to each one as well. But I'll just talk about a couple right now. One that we're really excited has moved forward in the process is House Bill 2474, which would prevent cities from discriminating against affordable housing and shelter. This bill is a response to something that we've seen really widely across King County, which is that cities are using overly restrictive zoning rules to box out housing and shelter to really, really aggressively, in some cases, prevent people from having a place to stay in that community. So this bill would help to prevent that. And we are really, really excited to see that move forward in the process. We are strongly supporting it. And House Bill 2114 is also moving forward. This is a bill that is strongly supported by the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance. It would limit rent increases to 7% per year. And that is a huge victory for preventing people from getting priced out of their homes. It's a huge victory also for it to make it this far in the process. It did have a Senate companion bill, so an identical bill that was introduced in the Senate that died in the Senate. So now this bill is in the Senate now, and we're expecting it to need a lot of advocacy if it's to even move forward another step. So I think, you know, we're expecting this bill to have a really hard time moving through the Senate. We are still going to advocate for it, but it is a huge victory that it made it this far in the process. And even if it does die in the Senate, I think it's really important to remember that, especially in a short session like this year, it is really, really important to still advocate for bills, even if they don't make it to a law this year, because big policy changes like this often take many years to become law. So no matter what, we're still going to push for that bill because it is so, so important that our lawmakers hear from us about how important that is to the community. So that's the good news. There are some bills that did not make it past the cutoff and did not survive. One that we are, you know, that we have been pretty focused on that is likely not moving forward in the process is Senate Bill 5770. that would have allowed King County to raise property taxes more than it's currently able to. King County is facing really, really massive budget problems this year that we're expecting to affect the general fund, which funds a lot of homelessness services as well as public health. So we are watching that very, very closely. We're working with our folks in Olympia to figure out if there's another path to generate more revenue for King County to make sure that we can stabilize those really important services. So that's something that, you know, we're sad, of course, that 5770 didn't make it, and we're working hard to find other paths for King County to generate that revenue. A couple other bills that are not moving forward this year is, we talked about the Senate rent stabilization bill is not moving forward. And there was also a really exciting voting rights bill, House Bill 2030, that would have allowed most people to vote while incarcerated. That bill did not move forward this year, but it did get a public hearing, which was really exciting. And that was not something that its advocates expected. And so that was a really huge victory for that bill to get a public hearing. And again, it's like each year you get one more step and one more step and one more step. So that's definitely a bill that's going to be coming back around next year. Another really important priority that we're working on, so we've talked about bills. Another thing that the legislature does is it passes a budget every year. And there's a really, really important budget request that I will ask you to take action on. So Kristen, if you could pop that action link, thank you very much. This is a link to an action alert from our friends at the Washington Low Income Housing Alliance to ask the legislature to add $70 million to keep shelter doors open across the state and continue to support shelters and essential services for people who are experiencing homelessness. I won't get into the nitty-gritty of like why this much funding is needed, but essentially there was a shortfall of funding coming in because the economy has been slower to recover than we thought. And so there's a lot less funding coming in. And so the legislature needs to really invest to fill that gap. So I'll invite you to take action on that. I'll also invite you to take action to sign in pro for a bill that has a public hearing tomorrow. This is Senate Bill 5908 that is one of our partner priorities. The Mockingbird Society is working on this one as well. That would allow youth who are in foster care but aging out, so youth who are 18 to 21, to voluntarily enroll in extended foster care services. So they can continue receiving benefits from that program. And what this bill would do is it would lower the bar to entry into that. So it would allow more youth to enter into that program and receive those benefits. So two ways to take action today. There's a letter to your lawmakers to add funding to the budget for shelters and services, and also an invitation to sign in pro for Senate Bill 5908. And if you haven't signed in pro before, it's very straightforward. You can just select from the drop-down menu, pro, fill in your info, and that's all. Awesome. Thank you, Nancy. Fabulous. And that is all I have for legislative updates. I know that's a lot of like numbers and a lot of info. Again, it's all in our blog. So that's a good place to go. We keep it updated if you want to check in throughout the process. Thanks, and I'll send it back to Allison. Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Hallie. I just want to give our usual reminder to people. Yes, it's a lot of information, but our job, Hallie's and mine, is to make it easy for you to do so. You can always send a question to us. Remember two things. The legislative process moves fast. This is by the March general membership meeting a month from now, the session will be over and we will be having a recap meeting with lawmakers to come talk about what did and didn't happen in the session. So it moves fast, and when you see an action alert, usually they're set up so that it takes you maximum 120 seconds. And that includes a quick customization so that you can personalize the subject line or the first sentence. That's what our action alerts are set up for. That's what the Housing Alliance, the Mockingbird Society, Poverty Action, all sorts of advocacy organizations know to do. Here's your job. Take action every time we ask you. Even if you've already taken action on an issue or a bill, remember, the process is that bills have to go through multiple stages, multiple committees, and lots of good bills every year do not make it through the process. There are too many bills, frankly, and the money is a real limiting factor. So our advocacy power is with all of you being able to let the lawmakers know, and we together cover a huge swath, not just King County, because you all live in many different places. We are the advocates for our folks and for our issues. We do not have a huge number of lobbyists in three-piece suits showing up in Olympia for folks who are poor, for folks experiencing homelessness, for young people in the foster care system. We have us. So just please bear that in mind. And, you know, when you can, get somebody else to take action too, because that's the other way that we express our power. Thanks.
Great. Thank you so much, Allison. It is not much time, as Allison said, before we reach the end of the legislative session, and our fate is sealed for about a year. That being said, there are a lot of priorities that we are going to reestablish. We're also going to hear from our lawmakers at our upcoming legislative recap at our next membership meeting on the 21st of March. That link is in the chapter register. We'll also hear from United Way King County, who has some fabulous tax prep resources that can be beneficial for service providers, as well as any folks experiencing homelessness that have some, at least some earned income for the year. So please join us to hear about that. I do want to share one other resource we have from the coalition. At the end of the month, in about 2 weeks, we're going to have a training on TANF and Work First. This is a fantastic opportunity for anybody who is working with families who could benefit by accessing cash benefits and want to access through a smooth application process and maintain benefits by complying with the Work First program if necessary. So join us on the 29th for that. We'll be joined by Solid Grounds Benefits Legal Assistance Program, who are expert subject matter folks who have lots of experience walking clients through how to access their benefits and how to advocate on their behalf. So thanks so much for hanging out with us and hearing some updates from us. As promised, I would like to spend a little bit more time than normal. Unfortunately, it's probably not enough time because there's always important community announcements. I want to hear from our members. We want to take a few minutes, the rest of the time here, to hear from our members who have been coming to general membership meetings and want to share time-sensitive or relevant program updates, community announcements, asks for resources, or other news with us. We are going to keep the recording going for a few minutes, and then we'll stop it. And then folks who want to share off camera are welcome to go then. We have a couple people we have lined up to go to get us started off. Trisha Matthew, are you here? You have an announcement about the HEN program.
Hi, I sure am.
Excellent.
Yeah, I just, it sounded like some folks weren't sure about it, our HEN stability program for HEN, just that we are currently keeping people who are at, who have fallen off of HEN eligibility into our HEN stability program. And when they fall off eligibility, they will be offered the opportunity to come into HEN stability, but they will be now required to pay 30% of their income towards the rent. So we're able to offer the subsidy, but at a slightly reduced rate. Well, some of them might be paying, like we might be providing the same subsidy. And currently we're being able to offer that through next June. So when anybody jumps on it at this point, they'll at least have another guaranteed year and a half of assistance.
Okay, awesome. That's great news for anybody who is working with a disabled client eligible for Social Security disability benefits, who can certainly still benefit from maintaining housing assistance through HEN. Tricia, can we share your email in case anybody has questions about that?
Absolutely. And I actually dropped it in the chat earlier today, but we can put it in again too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Okay, that's great news. We also have Joe Conniff here from Recovery Cafe to talk about a great basic needs resource fair that's coming up tomorrow in the Soto neighborhood of Seattle.
Thanks, Tim. Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Joe Conniff. He's he, him pronouns, operations manager down here at Recovery Cafe in Soto. We are located between Costco on the 4th Avenue area and between Airport Way and I-5 in that little industrial park. We do a resource connection days, we call it, on the 3rd Friday of each month. I just shared the PDF into the chat there, and then my email address is there. I'm not sure how many folks are familiar with Recovery Cafe. We have 2 locations in Seattle. There are other cafes, nationally other cafes in the state. These 2 here in Seattle are directly affiliated. Just a brief heads up, if you're not familiar with us, we offer a dignified space for people to work on their recovery, whatever that looks like and whatever that's from, everything from substance use, homelessness, incarceration, domestic partner, intimate partner violence, all those kind of things. We have weekly meetings from the 12-step community, smart recovery, those kind of things. But the resource connection day that we do on the 3rd Friday of each month, which will be tomorrow, it goes the actual fair portion where we have providers table in our parking lot here at the Soto site. We have about 10 to 15 different providers that show up. Just to give you a sense, as we have like the mobile medical dental van, Seattle Veterinary Outreach. These are folks that I know will be here tomorrow. King County Public Health Foot Care, Recovery Beyond. I know we have some representation here from Skitch. We'll have some folks from Molina Healthcare, folks trying to navigate insurance, understanding that, enrollments. We'll have somebody doing phones, vehicle residency outreach, Catholic Community Services scope, and several more. It's also a day that the Recovery Cafe is open to everybody in the community. We are a membership organization. Membership is free. But if you're somebody or folks that you work with or your friends, colleagues, anybody in the community, please let them know. It's a great time to come down. There'll be some great food tomorrow. We do breakfast and lunch. We're open 9 to 3:30. We'll have the dental van and the veterinary outreach will be here the whole length of the day, but the provider fair from 12 to 2-ish will be some of those other organizations that I mentioned, like Reach and Scope. And so if you have folks that are anybody on this call that needs an outreach worker or anything like that, we'll have some of those individuals and organizations here. Happy to provide any other information on the cafe or answer questions. I also want to respect the time and space here. So my email address is there. I'm happy to send folks any kind of information on the cafe. I've been somebody who's been on the membership side about 9-10 years ago, coming out of my experience of homelessness and substance use. So I can speak to it from a side of being a staff member and a community member trying to access this community. Just want to thank everybody for the opportunity to share that out. As mentioned, any questions, calls, clarifications, please don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. The coalition has had the pleasure of joining the Recovery Cafe Resource Fair a couple times. We'll have some volunteers there tomorrow talking about voter registration. If you know anybody who wants to register in time for the presidential primary or some other big elections this year, and also is looking for other resources, stop on by. Awesome. And then I want to pass it on to Joshua from YMCA Youth Housing, who has just a bit of a program pitch for us for unstably housed youth and young adults.
So, hello. I am from the Y, which most people think of as swim and gyms, as we like to call them. And absolutely, we have a beautiful gym system that you can go swim at that I access several times a week. But what I'm passionate about is working with housing and homelessness, with it, specifically within the youth arena. So I work for a portion of the Y of Greater Seattle called the Social Impact Center, and we have several transitional living programs that happen within here all over King County. And I have the pleasure of working for one of them that is very, very cool, where we assist them not only with help on their transitional housing, but we also provide them with services from everything from accessing these IDs. By the way, Lori, thank you so much. It is something that I learned about when I first signed on as a lowly case manager at the Y, that we have found out, and that everybody at the Y has been taught on now, so that we have accessed that program many, many times. And thank you for making it easy for us to do that. We also have the privilege of having several different programs on through the Y Social Impact Center, such as behavioral health for our clients. We also offer peer support, which is a unique way of looking at mental health. I am a certified peer counselor and offer my services as well through that. We also work within the community to provide cultural based healthcare for people who want to go within their healthcare, within their culture. To get that healthcare, we help get their food that they want. So a lot of times we talk about, let's feed the homeless, but what are we feeding them? Are we feeding them from their culture? Or are we giving them what they need? So we're looking for advocacy for that. We are also working on just looking at it as a whole. So I'm just coming to pitch the idea that the Y is out there, and we do more than just the swim and gyms. Not to say that they aren't wonderful swim and gyms, because they are, but within that, there are several things that you can do to help out. If you have any questions about our programming at the Y, I am dropping my email in the space now, and feel free to give me a call. To give me an email, and I will be able to answer questions, or I will get you to the person that needs to answer those questions for you. So thank you guys. Thank you all so much for your time. Thank you, Tim, for inviting me. I really appreciate it. This is a passion. I reached out to Tim to be all like, hey, I want to be a part of y'all's meetings. I like y'all. Y'all are cool. Let me just paw at y'all for a little bit. All right. Thank you so much, and have a great day.
Thank you, Josh. We are pawed at. That's like a great compliment, I'm sure. So I'm gonna pop in here for a couple of minutes to clarify something that I think we're going to learn more about. Some of you, we reached out to those of you who are particularly active in and around the Capitol Hill area, because like you, perhaps, we got very short notice that the Capitol Hill CSO was going to be closing on February 20th. That was not a great piece of news. We did not experience what was apparently a 6-month process of reaching out to stakeholders. We learned about this 10 days ago, maybe, from a state lawmaker. The good news is that the pushback has been significant enough that they have now rescinded that closure, at least temporarily. However, I suspect that this is something that we are going to invite you to weigh in on. So if you work with folks who receive services at the Capitol Hill CSO, we want to hear from you. We also have heard anecdotally concerns about some of the other CSOs in King County perhaps not being available for walk-in services. We need to hear details. If that is happening to you or people you work with, please reach out to any member of the coalition staff or email contact@homelessinfo.org. It's extremely important that we know, the date, the approximate time, and which CSO, because we have worked pretty hard, as you all know, to ensure that people who need to be able to receive services in person on a walk-in basis are able to get their needs met by the DSHS offices. So please keep us informed. And then I love it when I get emails asking me for information during our general membership meeting, which is what just happened to me 5 minutes ago. So I would like to hear from anyone. You can put it in the chat or you can reach out afterwards about what your experiences have been regarding accessing Social Security Administration offices or helping your folks access services from the Social Security Administration. The fact that there are issues and concerns is not news. But again, the details matter. And we now have interest and an inquiry from someone at the federal government who is supposed to help us address some of the difficulties that folks may be experiencing accessing Social Security Administration services. So please reach out. You can share good as well as bad, but we need to hear from you all on the ground about what's going on. So thank you very much for giving me a couple minutes. And I think we may have time for just brief general community updates. I will let Tim be the facilitator for our last few minutes.